Being in grad school has made me realize my mom was always right. Now, if she were here, she would say, yeah, duh, of course I was, but let me explain. My research is about how sea turtles respond to harmful algal blooms, which are large increases in the amount of algae in an area. These algal blooms cause harm to the environment by smothering it. They block out the light so that all the plants in the area die, and then as those plants die, that sucks up all the oxygen in the environment, killing the fish as well. So when these algal blooms started happening in 2011 along the east coast of Florida in the Indian River Lagoon, I wanted to understand how the green sea turtles there responded. Now, when I was a kid, my mom had to say this a bit too often to me, but I'm going to give you to the count of 1, 2, 3 lessons from my mom that helped me in my dissertation. The first lesson is don't count your chickens before they've hatched. So I took this to heart in the first chapter of my dissertation, where I wanted to use my lab's long-term data to be sure that these algal blooms were impacting the turtles. So in using data science techniques, I found that the number of turtles in the lagoon has actually gone down by about half since the early 2000s. So why are these declines happening? This leads to mom lesson number 2. Always eat your vegetables. Green turtles eat seagrass and seaweed, which of course are plants, and plants die in algal blooms. So is their diet related to these declines that we're seeing? I used 100 diet samples from green turtles in the Indian River Lagoon, and I looked at their diet to see if it had changed from previous diet studies. In fact, they eat seaweed just like they did before, but those species of seaweed has changed to species that are indicators of environmental degradation, which could actually indicate that they're adapting to these conditions on the ground. But if they're adapting to the conditions on the ground, why are we seeing fewer turtles? This leads to the final mom lesson number 3. You are what you eat. Now, I never turned into a giant cheeseburger as a kid, but the chemical signature of what and where an animal is eating is incorporated into its tissues. So in using a technique called stable isotope analysis, I can harness these chemical signatures to get a broad picture of both the habitat use and the dietary habits of this green turtle population. So in doing this on 250 green turtle samples, I found that the stable isotope signatures had gotten less variable over time, which could indicate one of 2 things. It could indicate that their dietary options were a little less varied than they were before, or it could indicate that the turtles were coming to the lagoon from fewer habitats than they had before. So with this information in hand, we know that these green turtles were impacted by these algal blooms, and that if we don't do something to restore the lagoon, that they might not come back. But to me, this could be taken in a positive way, that if we work hard to restore the lagoon, it could have big benefits to green turtles and their habitats. In other words, don't cry over spilt milk, always clean up after yourself, and above all else, you can do anything you set your mind to. Or at least that's what my mom would say.